We are now going to start to explain how to solve quadratic equations using factors. But before we go and solve quadratic equations, I have to introduce the big idea here. Here's the big idea behind this method. If I write down a few sums for you guys, and you can pause the video at any stage, what is 5 multiplied by 0? Well, it's 0. What's 7 multiplied by 0? Well, it's 0. What's minus 8 times 0? Yes, it's 0. What about 0 multiplied by 15? What's the answer to that? 0. What about 0 multiplied by 0? Well, the answer would be 0. And what about 0 multiplied by any number? What would that give you? Well, the answer is 0. Okay, so any number multiplied by 0 will always give you a 0, provided you're doing a multiply sum. Now, next big idea is, if I tell you that there's some number A multiplied by some number B, and the answer is 0. So I'll say that again. If I tell you there's some mystery number A multiplied by another mystery number B, but the answer is 0, what does this tell us about A or B? Can we make any deductions? Can we make any logical conclusions? And I'll get you to pause the video and think about this. And when you've thought for a while, you can play the rest of the video. Okay, hopefully maybe some of you may have realized that if A multiplied by B equals 0, this means, therefore, A will equal 0, or B has to equal 0, or both equal 0. So this is the big idea here that's so important, and hopefully you can get your head around it. If you've got two things multiplied and the answer is 0, then that means logically that one of them has to be 0 or both. Because 0 times something will give you 0, something times 0 will give you 0, and 0 times 0 will give you 0. So it has to be true that either A is 0 or B is 0, or maybe both of them are 0. And this is the big idea behind factors. Let me explain why. If I told you that if I had x in a bracket multiplied by x minus 5 in a different bracket is equal to 0. If I gave you that sum where this is multiply, so you've got x is what we call a factor, and x minus 5 is a factor. Remember, factors are things that multiply together. In fact, if I went back to the previous thing here, A multiplied by B equals 0. Well, A is a factor and B is a factor because they multiply. So, okay, up here, 5 times 0 is 0. Well, 5 is a factor and 0 is a factor. Here, 7 is a factor and 0 is a factor. Why are they called factors? Because factors are things that multiply together. So back to this. We've got x multiplied by x minus 5 equals 0. Now, this is a little bit like saying that the first thing is called A and the second thing is called B is equal to 0. And we said in the previous page that if two things multiply give you 0, then A must be 0 or B must be 0. But instead of A's and B's here, I can say that x must be 0 or x minus 5 must equal 0. Because this whole thing is in this bracket. X minus 5 is the whole thing. And this gives us an answer of x equals 0, but this one gives us what we call a linear equation. This is called a linear equation, and you guys know how to solve these. You know how to solve these. We just leave the x on the left and bring the minus 5 over and it becomes 5. So we end up getting two answers from this using this idea. In the next video, I'm going to show you the method proper for quadratic equations.